In the heart of a desolate forest, shrouded in perpetual twilight, there stood an ancient, crumbling mansion known as Blackthorn Manor. Locals whispered of its grim history, claiming it was cursed, and none who entered ever returned. One moonless night, a group of daring friends decided to test the legends. Armed with flashlights and courage, they ventured into the forest, their laughter masking the unease that gnawed at their souls. As they approached the mansion, the air grew colder, and the forest's whispers grew louder. The friends hesitated but pressed on, pushing open the mansion's creaking doors. Inside, the darkness was oppressive, swallowing their feeble beams of light. Strange sounds echoed through the mansion's decaying halls, whispers, footsteps, and sinister laughter. Their bravado faltered, but it was too late to turn back. They had crossed the threshold. Descending into the basement, they discovered a room filled with antique dolls, their glassy eyes reflecting their terror-stricken faces. Unnerved, they tried to leave, but the door slammed shut, locking them in. Panic set in as the dolls' eyes followed their every move. One by one, the dolls sprang to life, their porcelain faces contorted into grotesque grins. In a sinister chorus, they sang a haunting lullaby, their voices resonating with malevolence. Desperate to escape, the friends searched for an exit, but the mansion seemed to twist and turn, leading them deeper into its nightmarish maze. The walls bled, and the floor pulsed like a beating heart. The dolls danced and twirled around them, their laughter growing louder and more menacing. In a final, desperate attempt, one of the friends shattered a window and jumped into the cold, unforgiving night. The others followed suit, their bodies breaking through the glass, their screams piercing the silence. They landed outside, bruised and battered, but free. As they fled the forest, they looked back to see Blackthorn Manor collapse in on itself, vanishing into the darkness from whence it came. They never spoke of that night again, haunted by the memory of the dolls and the malevolent force that dwelled within the accursed mansion. Blackthorn Manor remained a terrifying legend, a place where the line between the living and the dead blurred, and where the dolls' haunting lullaby still echoed in their nightmares.
As the moon cast eerie shadows through the curtains, Emily lay in her dimly lit bedroom, listening to the ominous creaks of the old house. The wind outside howled like a tormented soul, setting a chilling backdrop for the night's events. She was home alone, her parents away on a business trip, and the silence of the empty house weighed heavily on her. Emily had always been a night owl, but tonight was different. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Every small noise, every flicker of a distant streetlight sent shivers down her spine. She clutched her phone, debating whether to call a friend to come over or simply dismiss her fears as mere paranoia. Just as she was about to dial her friend Lisa's number, the power went out, plunging the house into total darkness. Emily's heart raced, and she fumbled for her flashlight, the only source of illumination in her pitch-black room. She had barely managed to turn it on when a soft, raspy whisper echoed from the darkness. "Emily, I know you're there." She froze, her flashlight trembling in her hand. It was a voice she didn't recognize, a voice that sent a shiver of dread down her spine. It sounded sinister, menacing, and impossibly close. Emily's mind raced, trying to comprehend where the voice had come from. Seconds felt like hours as she sat in the darkness, her breath shallow and rapid. The whisper came again, this time even closer, as though it were right beside her. "Emily, you can't hide." Her instincts kicked in, and she scrambled out of her bed, darting towards the door. As she reached for the doorknob, she felt an icy breath on her neck, and a cold hand clamped down on her shoulder. She screamed and swung her flashlight wildly, illuminating the face of a grotesque, gaunt figure, its eyes gleaming with malice. But when the light hit the figure, it vanished, leaving Emily standing alone in the empty hallway. The encounter had been so brief, so surreal, that she wondered if it had been a hallucination brought on by fear. Emily knew she had to escape the house. With her flashlight in hand, she carefully made her way downstairs, avoiding the creaky steps. The air grew colder as she reached the ground floor, and a sense of dread hung thick in the air. Just as she reached the front door, a faint, eerie melody filled the air. It was a lullaby, haunting and melancholic, as though it were being sung by a child in distress. The melody seemed to come from all directions, surrounding Emily. Torn between the urge to flee and the inexplicable pull of the music, she followed the haunting tune down the hallway and into the living room. There, she saw an old music box on a dusty shelf, its lid slowly rotating as the haunting melody continued. With trembling hands, Emily reached for the music box and slammed it shut, silencing the eerie lullaby. As the music ceased, so did the chill in the air, and the oppressive atmosphere in the house lifted. Exhausted and shaken, Emily stumbled back to her room, where she barricaded herself inside. She kept the flashlight on, casting a feeble barrier against the encroaching darkness. Hours passed, and the first rays of dawn began to filter through the curtains. Emily had survived the night, but the terror of the midnight caller still lingered in her mind. She knew she could never forget that sinister voice or the chilling presence that had haunted her. Her parents returned home, unaware of the horrors she had endured. Emily hesitated to tell them, fearing they wouldn't believe her. Instead, she resolved to face her fears and confront the mysteries that lurked in the shadows of their old house. Little did she know that the midnight caller had left a mark on her soul, a darkness that would forever change the course of her life. The horrors of that night were far from over, and Emily was about to embark on a journey into the heart of a malevolent force that defied all reason and comprehension.